Right. We're a minute or two behind here. Sorry. Thanks for your patience. Okay. Okay. Thanks for your patience. I will call the November 20th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to order. Will everyone please stand, and will Commissioner Rosine please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Reed, nice to see you. Staff roll call, please.
All commissioners are present this evening.
Okay, public comments. This is the time we take public comments on items that are not on the agenda, that are generally within the purview of the Planning Commission. If you wish to speak, please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Seeing none. Moving on to the next item. Request for continuances. Staff, are there any requests for continuances?
No, Chair, no requests for continuances.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 1, the minutes of the October 23rd, 2025 Planning Commission hearing. Would anyone from the audience like to comment on the minutes from the October 23rd, 2025 meeting? See no one. Thank you. Commissioners, call for motion and second. I guess I'll make the motion to approve Mr. Mosier's edits.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Saline?
Didn't pop up on his.
Abstain?
Were you? It's not.
Nothing's popping up.
Technical difficulties. Were you?
The motion carries 5-0 with Commissioners Reed and Saline abstaining.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2, the Acacia Atrium Medical Office Condominiums. It's PA 2024-0236. Site location is 20280 and 20312 Acacia Street. Staff, please proceed with your presentation.
If I could interrupt really quick, I believe we have a recusal on this item.
We do. Chair, I need to recuse myself on this item due to proximity to a property owned in part by my employer.
Thank you, Commissioner Langford. We'll give you a minute. All right.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Oscar Orozco here with the Planning Division, presenting planning application PA 2024-0236, more commonly known as the Acacia Atrium Medical Office Condominiums. Project site's located at 20280 and 20312 Acacia Street, as identified in this map here. The project site is located in the Santa Ana Heights specific plan within sub-area known as Business Park, and is also located in the General Commercial Office land use designation of the general plan. The properties to the north, south, east, and west are all zoned and identified in the general plan identically to the subject property. The existing site, as depicted on this existing site plan, is comprised of one 3-story office building, highlighted there in yellow. It's a total of 27,931 square feet. And the site is currently improved with a surface parking lot of 109 parking spaces. The project request includes a condominium conversion to establish medical office condominiums, as well as a tentative parcel map to create a total of 12-unit condominiums, and a conditional use permit to establish the medical office use, as well as waive a total of 32 parking spaces, and a traffic study pursuant to the city's traffic phasing ordinance. As proposed, the project would not be making any changes to the actual building itself. That would remain. However, as required as part of the review for the project, there would be a loss of 1 parking space identified here in red for the purposes of a turnaround space. This is due to the dead-end drive aisle along the front of that property and is intended to provide for improved circulation for the site for parking purposes. The tentative parcel map and condominium conversion, as previously mentioned, is for the creation of 12 medical office condominiums. Those condominiums would be consistent with the zoning of the site, which is, as previously mentioned, business park within the Santa Ana Heights specific plan. Some of the key findings for the condominium conversion include the separation of water meter and water meter connection. However, for this particular project, the site is not located within the city's jurisdiction over water. It is, however, located within the jurisdiction of the Irvine Ranch Water District, and staff has confirmed with their staff that they would not be requiring the project to provide separate water meter and water meter connections for the project. In addition, the existing electrical service is underground and conforming to the current requirements. And lastly, a special inspection occurred earlier this year by our building inspector to verify that the project site met all of the minimum building code requirements of today. The conditional use permit portion of the project is intended to establish for the allowance of the medical office, given that the medical office land use type requires a minor use permit within the business park district of the Santa Ana Heights specific plan. And for the project itself, it is consistent with the general plan and zoning, as previously mentioned, and the intention of both of those. The site is also compatible with the adjacent sites, given that they have the same zoning designation and general plan land use designation when it comes to the intention of land uses for the area. The conditional use permit also includes a request to waive a total of 32 parking spaces, which is equivalent to 22.9% of the overall required parking space for a full conversion, which would be 140 parking spaces for the site. The applicant has included a parking study as part of their parking request for waiver. The parking study is intended to provide for real-world demand when it comes to the specific land use. So in this case, the applicant provided a parking study that analyzed separate locations. Just to backtrack a little, the site itself currently requires 109 parking spaces for the general professional office land use type, and it requires and provides that. The conversion of a full medical for the building would require a total of 140 parking spaces, and given that 1 parking space would be removed for the purposes of improved circulation, the supply of 108 spaces would lead to a deficiency of a total of 32 parking spaces. Therefore, as mentioned, the parking study that's provided was prepared by Michael Baker International, which provided weekday parking surveys that were taking in 2 separate comparable medical office buildings within the county. And notably, those sites that were elected did not include any urgent care as part of the medical land uses, and part of that will be included as part of this project. Therefore, the parking study, which analyzed those demands, ultimately concluded that the parking waiver is acceptable with the addition of a shared mobility space, so the overall site would have 108 parking spaces, with one of them dedicated to shared mobility, such as rideshare, Uber, etc., and would be noticed in the form of a placard or a posting in front of the parking spot. In addition to all that, the project request also triggers a traffic study per the city's traffic phasing ordinance. The traffic study requirements is that if a project exceeds a net increase of 300 average daily trips, a traffic study be prepared. In this case, the project is a net increase of approximately 703 average daily trips. Therefore, it does trigger the traffic study requirement. And a traffic study was prepared by Gondini Group under the supervision of our Public Works Department. As part of that traffic study, a total of 13 intersections were studied for potential impacts, and the conclusion of the study is that the intersections will continue to operate at satisfactory levels of service and no improvements are necessary. Just to highlight a few relevant conditions of approval for the project. As previously mentioned, the parking study that was conducted surveyed two sites that did not include two sites that did not include urgent care. Therefore, in order to continue with and implement the assumptions made by the parking study, the project itself is conditioned to not allow for urgent care facilities at this site. And on top of that, notably, condition of approval 32 requires the dedication to the city and fee a 5-foot wide strip of land along the Acacia Street front for street and highway purposes. I'd like to make one proposed revision to the resolution, specifically to finding D, fact and response to finding D number 2. Just strike out the specific language showed here, given that the requirement for the owners association is triggered through the implementation of the requirement to separate the water meter and the meter connection, and because the site is not located within the jurisdiction of the city for the separation of those and is rather in the urban ranch water district, is not applicable to include this language in the resolution. With that being said, staff recommends we conduct a public hearing, find the project exempt from CEQA, and adopt the resolution as proposed with the revisions. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. The applicant is also available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roscoe. Commissioners, any questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Emma?
Yeah, you said in the traffic engineer, like he looked at a couple comparable sites for his baseline in terms of for the parking study. What were the comparable sites, locations?
So, good evening, Commissioner. My name is Kevin Riley. I'm the city traffic engineer. There were two comparable sites. One was located in Irvine at Spectrum Medical Plaza at 15825 Laguna Canyon Road. And the second site was in Aliso Viejo at, it's called Second Journey Medical Plaza, located Second Journey in the city of Aliso Viejo.
Got it. And were there not any comparable sites within the city?
At the time, we did accept the comparable sites that the applicant provided us, given that they were the land uses were similar in nature to what the proposed project was. So we are open from a department perspective to accepting comparable sites that are similar in nature, and then also they're also urban setting as well.
Okay, but no other. So we couldn't find any in the city that compared.
Yeah, I don't think it was considered. I think we accepted the ones that were provided.
Got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Saleen?
Just a quick question. So just from a layman's term, why is a medical office required parking rate lower or higher, I guess, however you look at it, than an office? So what's just from a layman's perspective, what's the difference?
I think so. A medical office typically provides many services, such as urgent care services. There's a lot of high turnover. Office settings are typically settings where they're staff that's there for the entire day. There may not be as many turnover as far as like clients or when you compare to patients.
So essentially, the need is greater in a medical facility than in an office
That's
facility.
correct. There's more turnover in medical versus office.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners? I had a question on the, with the neighbor park, the neighbor to the east, it looks like there's an access easement, or is there parking as well? Typical? Or is it just reciprocal easement and access? I can ask the applicant as well.
Yeah, so staff's not aware of an easement to the adjacent property.
Or any access?
Correct.
Or just access but not parking, reciprocal access?
I don't, yeah, it's gated, so we actually have a condition
Oh, is
that's
it gated?
requiring that a fence be installed to prevent, people from accidentally parking next door and walking over.
Sorry, okay, you can't see that on the map. Thank you. Any other questions for staff? All right, commissioners, any ex parte communication?
None.
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 For me.
None. Thank you. Okay, I will open the public hearing. Does the applicant want to make a presentation or comment today?
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. My name is Pei Ching Li. I'm the founder and the CEO of CGN Development Company. We are located in City of Irvine in the Intersect building, and we have been around for 30 years. We did a lot of ground-up building like an industrial, retail center, medical building, custom homes, senior condos. And 15 years ago, we decided to narrow down to just commercial condos. And so this is the typical project. We did mostly ground up, but hard to find the land nowadays. So we acquired building like this one, and we heavily renovate the building, including the new roof, brand new individual AC for each and every unit. We also installed the individual electrical sub-panel and upgrade the parking lot, landscaping, lobby. Of course, everything will meet the latest ADA requirement for all the access. So we have a total 12 unit proposed, and very good news is 9 out of 12 already under contract with many prominent doctors. They are primarily leasing in city of Newport right now, and they are waiting for tonight's approval for them to waive the contingencies. And one more doctor also waiting for tonight's decision to sign the purchase contract. There is a very strong demand for medical condo in the city, but just not that many choices for those doctors. And we are here hoping to provide that facility for the need of the community. I'm here to answer any other questions you have. And thank you so much for taking the time to look at our project, and hope you understand what we are proposing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Do you agree with the recommended conditions of the project?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant at this time? Rosie?
One of the conditions that was just struck from the conditions was that there didn't need to be an association or professional management. It seems to me that that actually is something that would create a benefit for this property. Would you be willing to make sure that that was an additional condition?
Do you mean an HOA with the property management on board?
Yes.
Oh, yes. That's typical what we do. Yes.
Okay. Then that was just struck from it, if I understood correctly. Or maybe I didn't understand, so for clarification.
Yes, thank you. Just to clarify, the component that's being stricken is the fact in support of finding D within the resolution, which is separate to the conditions.
Got
and
it.
that specific language is being stricken because of the fact that the site is located in the Irvine Ranch Water
So
District and not
strictly the
cities.
findings.
Correct.
Okay.
No change to the actual conditions.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Commissioner Elmore?
32 stalls for this building is for this size, in my opinion, in my experience, the last 7-8 years doing this is quite a bit. Did you take into consideration or evaluate any other parking solutions, like a parking structure, a deck, a lift, a valet, before you made the application or going through the process?
Yeah, we did a lot of study. The two buildings we did a parking study actually are designated by the city. City gave us the address to study these two buildings and came back the peak time all below the current existing parking stalls. And secondly, we also consider valet parking. We also consider maybe build a shower with rack, bicycle rack. That's part of on the city's rules and regulations. Those can be done if we realize there is a parking issue.
Okay, but other solutions like a structure, did you evaluate any other to add more lots on the site to make it compliant?
We
So the
did.
variance-
The lot is a fairly small parcel, and we had the architect laid it out because when you have a structure, you have on-ramp, off-ramp. By the time you take that out, based on our study, that's almost impossible because the depth and the width of the area in the back side of the lot is not feasible. But on the city's rules and regulation or code does allow valet parking or we do have an actual space so we can build a shower with the locker room and a space for the bicycle rack. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Will you clarify, you said valet the city didn't allow, or
City does allow that, right?
I think they do. We condition it quite often.
Ask us, yes.
But no, that's okay. Okay. Do you have, on the neighboring parcel, do you guys have, it looks like there's a gate there. Is there any chance for reciprocal access or parking there? Are there any agreements existing?
We can talk to them, but actually that neighbor is the one built this building. And because it's office building, they couldn't generate any income, very high vacancy. That's why they decided to sell it to us. Yeah, so.
Okay. Commissioner Reed?
Thanks. Just one final clarifying question. So as it sits today within your HOA, do you have any formal other parking solution if you need additional parking? I know you've thrown out valet potentially, but is there anything in writing that's in the HOA today for additional parking?
We haven't formally subdivided, so we have a proposed CCNR. We're going to submit to the city right after tonight's meeting. And our understanding is if there is an issue, then we can work it out some way. Even I was told by an architect located in our city, he built not a structure, more like a valet parking, but it's 2-story parking along the property line area. That can be a solution if it comes down to needing more parking spaces.
Got it. So that would be a lift system in that case?
More or less, yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, does anyone from the audience want to comment on this item?
Chair, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Jason Krotz. I'm here on behalf of Rita Newport Irvine LLC. I stood before you this past January and addressed you all for my project at 3300 Irvine Avenue. You all received an email from me today in regards to the planning application. I appreciate your time and support in ushering and championing projects in the city, and I'm not here to speak in opposition of the applicant's project or to be negative to anybody making a financial investment in our community. But what I'm here tonight is on behalf of my project, our investors, and property owners throughout the city who would ask that every property owner and applicant is treated fairly, equitably, and held to the same standards and conditions on their project applications. If this commission finds the project that meets the criteria for approval tonight, I would like to put it on record that I would like to go back and have the same standards applied to our project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay. Does the applicant wish to respond? Anything else to say? Okay. Okay, staff, any comments for the record?
I just want to clarify that, within our municipal code, there's certain findings and options for waiving parking. And so, one of the options is if a parking demand study is provided that can demonstrate a lower parking rate would be adequate for that specific use. That's an option. Our code also allows for reductions in parking demand based on like rideshare availability. If there's parking spaces where, Uber or Lyft might work. A slight reduction is allowable for facilities that have like bicycle accommodations and showers, as she mentioned. And then valet is an option, and that would suffice as part of a parking management plan to address any shortfall. So those are our options.
Thank you. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission for discussion and action. Commissioner Elmore.
Sure, thank you. I've sat on this planning commission since 2018, late 2018, maybe too long. But I go back and I remember a project that was brought in front of us, I don't know, maybe in 2019, 2020. I'd have to go back and look at my records, 2021. That was on Bristol, 2 office buildings, surface parked. I believe the applicant was Buchanan Street Partners. This was a medical office conversion. Full parking study done, similar percentage shortage. And that applicant came forward with a valet proposal with a lift proposal. That item was later continued because we felt that the way that the upper Newport Bay in that zone is designed is there's not a sufficient amount of street parking. There's going to be an impact to neighbors. They weren't designed in a form or fashion in which overflow parking was really conducive to that. They were designed for office buildings, not medical office buildings, so a lower parking utilization. I think we ultimately gave them a small percentage of what they were looking for, and that was, I think, overwhelmingly felt confident by the commission in that time. I go back to a project that was brought in front of us back in January at 3300 Irvine Avenue. The applicant made a strong push to not build a parking structure. The body here made it very clear that a parking structure for what they were looking to do based upon precedent and that area and the zone and the lack of parking, a parking structure, if they wanted to see the conversion occur, would be necessary. And that applicant was granted approval based upon the fact that they built a parking structure and they complied. There was a small variance to that, but with the parking, but that small variance was due to the fact that there was some unusable storage down below. So the variance was actually net nothing, in my recollection. And that applicant decided to make the investment into that at that time. This, in my opinion, is a very strong ask for that zone. I don't believe that there are I drove the lot several times, that there's going to be sufficient parking or a way. And I agree with the applicants. It's a small lot, it's a small parcel, and there's a lot of demand. I agree with those sentiments in totality. And my concern is if we make a determination tonight that this would be compliant, and I agree with the demand in that area in Upper Newport Bay, that there are going to be several other applications that will want to make the same conversions due to the fact that that demand is what it is. I think it's prudent upon this body to be consistent in our determinations and our findings, and not to be falling out of step. Our consistency, I think, is important for how we approach projects, and that we're unified, consistent in our determination, so that everyone realizes everyone's treated the same. We're no different from anybody. I didn't see in this report any lift system operate. I haven't seen anything. Just the fact that just a straight variance across the board. We've pushed back on this time and time again. We've denied it before. I don't feel confident based upon this application and the demand versus the supply. What I would see is a 30% increase, that I can make the findings to agree with this application. And just so that we're clear, I would be opposed to this application.
Thank you, Commissioner Elmore. Commissioner Rosing?
I mean, the variance is significant, and I know we're not here talking about another project, but if we were, that would be another 28 spaces that would have been waived by the speaker. So it is significant, and it's something that we should consider. I think that there's an opportunity to do better, and we probably should, and be consistent across the board. So if there's an opportunity to come up with a solution, we can sit here tonight and come up with one. Looking for a little bit of advice from staff to say, what could we do to keep this moving forward, but conditioning it appropriately? To be consistent, by the way. Is that possible?
Chair, would you like me to respond?
Sure.
Sure. So it depends on where the commission lands on this. There's a couple of alternatives that we've thought of that we can discuss. I think first off, if it's approved and it turns out there's a increased parking demand than what we assumed, we can always mandate the provisions of valet parking. I think the site, I reviewed it with our traffic engineer. It's a good site to have a successful valet operation here. It's large enough. Alternatively, the commission can approve a lesser amount of medical office within the building. I will say, by right, per our code, up to 20% of a professional office building is allowed to have a medical office without requiring any additional parking. So I think that would be kind of like the floor. As far as an approval, medical office in this zone still requires the approval of a use permit. And so we would request that at least be approved. But a traffic study at that point wouldn't be required. And then in between, there's different amounts of medical office that could be permitted. There's like a phase approach, which is something that we looked at initially on that Bristol project back in 2021. I think that was a difficult approval. It came back to the Planning Commission total 4 times. Ultimately, I think that when we did land, I just confirmed on a 70% medical office allowance, but coming back and verifying with the commission to show how it's operating. The other project on Irvine, they did provide a parking demand study as part of that approval as well. That parking demand study determined that a minimum of 309 spaces would be required on that site, and only 270 were provided. And so with the provision of the parking structure, they're able to get their count up to 331. So they kind of overparked. But I just want to make sure that was clear. But there are different alternatives, and we can work with the commission on crafting some conditions.
So is that the only option where we come up with a condition at this time, or could the applicant come back and try to propose something, an alternative at a different time, or is it better to handle it now?
We can have the applicant come up and kind of share what their our recommendation would be, I don't know what the actual situation is. It sounds like based on their preliminary, not leasing, but sales that they have pending, I think 70% is something that would work for them. But if something lesser is, deemed appropriate by the commission, you can either, approve a condition with that, and then if they want to amend it, they would have to come back and do a whole nother study. Or if the applicant wants to kind of work with staff, we can come back at a future date with an alternative solution.
Well, let's see where the rest of the commission is, if we have some more comments, and then, we can either go to vote or consider alternatives. Or if there, Commissioner Saleen.
I'm not sure I'm 100% following some of the other options with the 70% and the percentages, but I'm not a big fan of to me, this seems like a very large variance or waiver request for something. And, as the engineers pointed out, the medical office demand is greater. It needs some more space. We pushed hard on the neighboring projects to provide the appropriate parking spaces. And as the other commissioners pointed out, I think it's too much of a grab. And I would not be in support of something like this. Again, some of the other options, love to explore them, love to see if we could figure out a way to make it work for you. But I think that, without the additional spaces, it's a tough ask.
I'll jump in. I don't need to be redundant with the other commissioners, but I'm also not supportive of this as it sits, but I would be supportive of something that is treated consistently with other applicants that have been through here that we've approved in the past.
Kazana?
Again, not to belabor everyone else's point, the only one that I would make is we as a body, we have to be clear and consistent across all the other rulings. But I think what I fear is that in the last 12 months, you've had two essentially neighboring properties come with the same application. And I think that is the market is speaking, is that right? There is greater vacancy in general office and there's more of a demand for medical office. And so I think if that continues to occur in this small neighborhood, right, the exacerbated effect of more people coming, right? You think it's only 30 stalls here, but you add it up and now you have a couple hundred stalls in a small neighborhood. We're going to look really, really, really bad. And so I think it is important at this stage, while this kind of, we'll call it the market forces are beginning to move, we need to be clear and consistent as to what we want to do.
Better guidelines. Shoma?
Yeah, and just one more comment for the record, which just had me thinking, was the fact that, we just had a letter that came forward in which there's going to be a re-application for a parking waiver based upon an approval here today of whatever it is. So take whatever that is, and we already, on the record right here, there's already one in the queue that's coming right back. So again, back to that point, it's just gonna cascade. And I think that we've been steadfast with this in our last few rulings, and I think that's the ground. That's where we need to maintain our consistency.
Okay, thank you all. I kind of fall similarly in my time on the body. I looked back to what we have approved, and we've never given one this high. I think I'm open to some sort of middle ground that is comparable. I don't think we want to open the floodgates and set a precedent where everyone comes in and starts, asking for the same thing. And as Commissioner Gazana said, it compounds on itself. But I think also the other projects that we have considered exceptions they offered more, provided more options. There were conditions that were easily identifiable. And it was a lot easier for us to make a recommendation or tweak something that was, seemed to make sense versus just there's nothing else offered. We're asking for the whole building. That's it. So I think there could be a middle ground here. I don't know if I'm, going to try to come up off the top of my head with a condition that makes it work at this time. But I think we'd be, obviously, as they said, try to stay consistent with what we have given in the past and would be willing to consider, a condition or a future condition proposed that, aligns with that. So that's where I stand. So
I'm gonna go ahead and actually, with all that, if everybody's okay with this, just make a motion, because, and I'm gonna make the motion to deny, and I hear with other alternatives, I don't feel like we're the ones that should be at this time trying to figure out the other alternatives for the applicant. That's not our, in my opinion, it's their property. I think if, in my mind, I think I'd like to see the applicant go back to the drawing board, resubmit a new application, come back with a plan in which that's going to be able to satisfy and figure out a better solution, something in which we had other applicants do. And for that reason, I'll make a motion to deny this project as it stands.
I'll second that motion.
Call for vote. Oh, hold on. Hold on.
If we vote, sorry,
You're voting to deny
a
the...
yes vote is to deny.
Correct.
Okay.
Here's this, yeah, Commissioner Saline's is still not working.
I think if we can just go with roll call vote, and just all in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? So we have a 6-0, one
Motion
abstention.
carries unanimously.
Apologize. We hope we get it back. Item number 3, general plan update, seeking input on refreshed goals and policies in the draft land use element and safety element. PA-2022, or PA 2022-080. This is citywide. Should we wait for Commissioner? Oh, look at this guy.
I think we had just a couple of housekeeping items on this. One is this is a study session item, and that the commission will not be taking any action on this tonight. It is just recommendations. Additionally, as I'd mentioned at the previous meeting, there are potentially discussions that will take place related to your specific neighborhoods or areas where you own real property. So with that in mind, I was going to go ahead and announce where those real property areas are located, and then if there is discussion that's desired from the commission on those specific neighborhoods, then if we could just consolidate that discussion all at once so that the individuals could step away, that would be helpful. So with that, I'll describe those real property interests. For Secretary Langford, he has an interest in the Port Streets and then in CDM, but outside of the village, outside of the village along PCH. So I don't see a conflict there. Commissioner Gazzano in Dover Shores, Commissioner Elmore in Beacon Bay and CDM, but again outside the village. Commissioner Reed is in proximity to Mariners Mile and then Newport Heights. Commissioner Rosine in East Bluff, Vice Chair Saline in Dover Shores and / Upper Newport Bay, and then Chair Harris has real property interest in Newport Heights and Mariners Mile. So again, when we do have that discussion, if we could consolidate discussion of those areas all at once so that the appropriate individuals could step away, that would be helpful to have an organized discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Yolanda. Good evening, Chair Harris, Planning Commissioners. My name is Ben Zadiba, Planning Manager. I'll give you a very brief presentation and would look forward to any feedback you have. I just want to start sharing a slide that Jaime shared when he was here on my behalf back in October, just sharing the approach that we've taken to the general plan update. I know this talks about a beginning in 2023, but really the general plan update started in 2019. We pivoted to the housing element to focus on state mandate and have come back now in full swing as of 2023 to kick off the comprehensive update to supplement and complement the housing element that was certified and completed in 2022. We're now wrapping up phase 2, which is the general plan draft development, and moving into phase 3. We've actually had our open houses already, and we are pursuing environmental analysis based on the draft elements. Ultimately, phase 4 is the adoption hearings, which you all will play a very key role in that in recommending approval of the full general plan to the City Council, looking for that to occur by June 2026. Just to recap the October 9th Planning Commission meeting, I just put a bulleted list of the highlighted new components that we introduced for each of the land use element and the safety element. I won't read through all these, but I do think it's important to identify that these were really generated from subcommittee input from the General Plan Advisory Committee, a 24-member council-appointed committee intended to represent the community. A couple that I'd like to highlight. We had a subcommittee member who was very particular about including Balboa Island to get some special treatment as far as opportunity for change, recognizing that it's a compact coastal district that requires some special attention from a planning standpoint. We also looked in the safety element for coastal resilience being a key word that's being used, and looking towards what lessons can we learn from Palisades and the unfortunate events that unfolded in LA County with regard to evacuation routes. Looking especially on Balboa Peninsula, looking at non-automobile options as there's only really one way in and out on the Newport Boulevard and Balboa Boulevard and roadways. So with that, really just looking for you all to discuss the draft elements. Once we have your feedback, we would look for direction from the commission through a motion to share that with the General Plan Advisory Committee. And they would consider your feedback for revisions to the general plan land use and safety element. And importantly, we'd be returning to you all again to get a formal vote of support for recommendation of approval to the City Council, again by middle of 2026. Lastly, I just wanted to thank my acting director, Jaime Murillo, for stepping in on October 9th. I don't think my wife would have been very happy if I spent my wedding anniversary with the Planning Commission. So thank you all.
You could have brought her here. Thank you, Mr. Zavita. Really quick, before tacking on to the comments before from Ms. Summerhill, if there's any specific areas, are there any specific areas that commissioners want to dive into or get into the weeds on that could conflict somebody at this point? Have any down there? Any that you can think in your notes that you want to talk about? Anybody down here? Okay. So, okay, that's good. Any questions for staff right now or any clarifications? Commissioner Rosine, please.
So I had a question last time, and I don't know if it was a question and just I think I had it or what the case may be, but I have a note that references that there was some agedness to this document, and there were some discrepancies between some specific callouts, like it would say LU 17.9, but it was actually from an older document. Is there any way you could clarify that for me? I don't recall I can't read my own note. How about that?
So when we drafted the element alongside the General Plan Advisory Committee and Steering Committee, for the land use element, since there were over 100 policies, we wanted to make it clear when something was adapted from a currently adopted policy, so that may be what you're referencing. The proposed element is now a different number, but it's adapted from a currently adopted policy in the land use element, for example. So it's just providing a through line from what we're proposing to what's existing.
Okay, well, that actually ties back to one of my actual comments, and that is that as I was reviewing or attempting to review the policy comparison section of this document, it's fairly illegible. Is there a way that for the next time that this comes back to us that this could be in a larger format so that we could read it? Agreed. That would be one of my primary comments. The rest are all pretty minor, but if you want, I'm happy to go through it. It's up to you, Chair.
Comments?
I did have just a couple, so if you want me to just go through this.
Please.
When we're talking about the airport area and location of parks, I was just hoping that we could keep it a little more of an open mind when it comes to the requirements for each park has to be surrounded by two sides by streets. That suddenly puts corner conditions and things that maybe aren't parks. That stuck out at me as maybe let's be a little more flexible because we don't know where those spaces are going to be yet. under, and I should have given you a written page number, that's page 34, LU 17.9, and, I'm sorry, 17.7. Then on page 39, this is in regard to Dover Westcliff. I thought it was interesting that we didn't prioritize the opportunity for redevelopment in this particular area, and because this is an opportunity to encourage densities that I would see as being for sale residential densities, as opposed to some of this higher densities rental properties that we're seeing in like the airport area. So LU 23.7 potentially could be to be focused on opportunity sites for residential uses in those locations. That was an opportunity. On page 40, written page 44, this is the first opportunity we start talking about the Randall Preserve. And I just want to make sure that when we're talking about the Randall Preserve, that we're talking about the opportunity for public access. There's a lot of discussions about things that could be construed to public access, but it doesn't actually say public access. I think that's important for that particular piece of property. And then again, as it relates to the Randall Preserve, I had a question, and it's regard to LU 29.5, which is the sphere of influence on handwritten page 45. And this is a discussion about removing it from the sphere of influence, which I thought was interesting. And then a specific call out to adding the Santa Ana Country Club. So I don't know that there's anything specific about that, and that was just an age document or age comment, but that struck me as interesting. As did, just above that, the comment about encouraging a linear park. It seems highly specific when we're talking about that area. So I'm certain that on the General Plan Advisory Committee that something was going on there. It's just maybe some clarification. So in addition to just adding the ability to be able to review the policy comparison pages at the back of this, that'd be helpful. So those are my comments.
Okay. Moving on, public comments. Does anyone from the audience want to comment on this item?
Chair Harris, members of the Commission, my name is Jim Mosier. As you've heard before, I am one of the 24 members of the General Plan Advisory Committee, but I'm speaking as an individual. And I just point out a couple of things. On one of the slides, you saw that one of the innovations here is staff is asking for administrative authority to update the tables in the general plan without having to go through a general plan amendment. Specifically, this is the anomaly table, and you can find an example of that on, and this is a little confusing, I think Commissioner Rosine was using the handwritten numbers from your old October 9th agenda, and the current one has two sets of handwritten numbers. So I'm looking at handwritten number 63, which was the old handwritten 57. This is an example of the anomaly table. I understand why the staff wants that authority, but I'm not sure why the table is not being cleaned up with this current amendment. On this page, for instance, anomaly 43 is the Vea Hotel. It says 611 hotel rooms. Some years ago, some of the hotel rooms were moved to another site. They're used for the Villas Newport apartment complex, and more of the hotel rooms were turned into what's called the Ritz-Carlton residences. So the table is out of date. Anomaly 46 says 24 tennis courts. I think you've approved a new pickleball resort there with a hotel and so forth. So they're asking for approval to make those changes, but I would think as part of this, we would want to clean up the table to its current state and then allow further changes to it. And to Commissioner Rosine's point about the advisory committee understanding everything that's happening, that's not totally true. I'll show you an example of that on current packet handwritten page 38, which was the previous page 32, is the policies for Old Newport Boulevard. You will see the first two policies there came from the existing policy 618.1, and then, no, actually the first one did, then there's one missing, and that was taken out not by the committee, but more by the consultant. And that, if you look in the table, that had to do with the existing general plan on Old Newport Boulevard discouraged certain uses. And among the uses that were discouraged were things like auto parts stores, auto repair stores. They didn't want it to be an auto-centric street. And the table, which is hard to read, the fine print, you will see that's covered by the zoning. But actually it has a office general zoning currently, which does address, it does not allow an auto repair store, but it would allow any kind of retail store there. So it's not really, the old policy of trying to transform Old Newport Boulevard is not really totally addressed in the planning. And then most strangely, you will see a new policy, LU 15.4, and I don't think there was any committee discussion of this, but we have a policy throughout the city of trying to bring non-conforming uses into conformity when a property is redeveloped, particularly commercial ones. And we made an exception to that for Balboa Village and for Corona Del Mar because of the constraints there that we would allow a currently non-conforming, non-residential use to rebuild to its current intensity, even if it was more than the plan allowed. And the consultant has just put that in for Old Newport Boulevard. And I think that was consciously left out in the current general plan, that the people in 2006 thought that that should be brought into conformity. So that's a change, and it didn't come or really have any discussion at our committee. So this will need more review from you, I think, when it comes back to you finally. And then the main comment I wanted to make, I'm sure I'm running over a little bit here, but the land use element, you will notice, is making no changes at all to our current zoning, except for the housing overlays that were added when the previously and separately from our committee's work. The comment I want to make about that is the idea of using housing overlays rather than actually fundamentally rezoning something for housing came at the recommendation of the State Department of Housing and Community Development. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but just last month on October 10th, the California Court of Appeals heard a case against Redondo Beach, which had used overlays. And the Court of Appeals now has a published opinion that the advice from HCD was in error, and overlays are not an adequate way to meet RENA requirements, and cities actually have to rezone properties for housing. And so that decision could be appealed to the Supreme Court. They may overturn it, the California Supreme Court. They may not. If it's not overturned, I think you as a planning commission need to understand how that will affect our land use element and what rezoning we will have to do. So those are my comments. Sorry to run over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Anyone else? Okay, see nobody. Staff, any comments?
Yeah, first of all, just want to apologize for the illegible attachment, Commissioner Rosine. That was not intentional. It was thrown together fairly rapidly, and I apologize. That was not my intent. But certainly we'll make that bigger and can make it available to the commissioners as well in a bigger format after this meeting. Just in regard to the anomaly table update, I think that what we're looking for through this update of the land use element is allowing staff to create a live real-time ledger of development potential, what's been exhausted in an area and what's still allowed. I think that offers better transparency for the community members as well as anyone pursuing a development on a property. We would like the time to go through meticulously and make sure that's accurate rather than create something to update for this potential land use element amendment. So would look to have the ability to do that, but would like to be able to do that, again, with some meticulous research of our records. The intention, just so you know, for that table would be to have references for every general plan amendment or transfer of development rights that occurred to really true up the numbers that are being shown. So it wouldn't just be staff, creating numbers out of thin air. There would be a through line to show that record happening. And then just lastly on the, I guess I'll also touch on the sphere of influence. The subcommittee actually did insert the Santa Ana Country Club as something that they were interested in putting on the table as something that the city could look to bring into sphere of influence and annex. So that is not an outdated reference. It's actually something that's very new. And then just with the changes to the Randall Preserve and as much as it was acquired, they thought it was also maybe good foresight to indicate that we could remove that from our sphere of influence. So there was some good thoughtfulness put into that sphere of influence component. I don't recall offhand about the linear park that goes along with that, but just wanted to share that the Santa Ana Country Club was definitely a new addition. And then lastly, on the Old Newport Boulevard changes that Mr. Mosier referenced, the insertion of the replacement of nonconforming floor area was actually intentional. Staff sees that as a way to revitalize an area where a property owner could take down a building that is nonconforming with floor area, put it back to the same floor area. We have similar provisions in Corona Del Mar and Balboa Village, as was indicated. So we think it's something that could prove beneficial for that area. The subcommittee did identify Old Newport, the corridor on Old Newport Boulevard, as something in need of some attention. So that is intentional as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cepeda. Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission. Further discussion, direction. Commissioners, any comments in general or additional information you'd like to get from staff? Thoughts? Okay, we're not making a motion tonight, even though, okay.
That's correct.
I'd just like to give staff some credit and Director Morito and Ben. I know you guys have spent a ton of time on this in the committee. Thank you, Mr. Mosier, everyone donating their time and going back and forth. I know it's been a painstaking effort, and we really appreciate it very much. This comes back to us in a couple months, I believe.
Potentially, I'm looking at March coming back to you, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get through the advisory committee again, and then we are going through all the boards, commissions, and committees. I'm visiting the Board of Library Trustees, the Arts Commission, PB&R, so all of those will have seen it before it comes to you, so I've got some things to do.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, I'll move on to the next item, which is item number 4, motions for reconsideration. Are there any motions for reconsideration? None? Okay. Item number 5, report by the Community Development Director, a request for matters which Planning Commission member would like placed on a future agenda. Director's report. Director Maria.
I just want to note we have no items for the December Planning Commission hearings. So the next time we'll reconvene will be hopefully the first meeting in January. So other than that, I just want to wish the commission happy holidays and enjoy the time off.
Everyone have a great holiday season. All right. Oh, does anyone from the audience want to comment on these items? Motion.
Are we coming in on the tentative agenda now? That was the director's report? Okay. Yeah. I just noticed after you come back in January that it says city council meeting, airport area specific plan on the consent calendar. I assume that just means the initiation of working on an airport area specific plan, because I'm not aware of one having gone through here. And then the main comment I wanted to make is on the items pending before the Coastal Commission, which is on the last page. We're hoping to build a new fire station and library on the Balboa Peninsula. That matter has come through here. It got appealed to the Coastal Commission. We heard last night at a District 1 town hall that the Public Works Department thought it would be on the December Coastal Commission agenda to hear that coastal development permit appeal, but it was not on their agenda, which was published, and it's not on this. So has the appeal been withdrawn? They were hoping to start construction in February, and the Coastal Commission doesn't meet again until February. So I'm certainly interested, maybe you're interested in what the status of that would be. Thank you.
Mr. Mosier, would staff like to respond?
Yes. So regarding the appeal of the Balboa Fire Station and Library project, it is being heard at the Coastal Commission on December 10th. And so I will update the tentative schedule. We just confirmed with Coastal Commission staff this earlier today. And then regarding the airport area specific plan, that's on the consent agenda for the City Council in January. So that is requesting the authorization to enter into a contract with a consultant that would help kick off that effort for a specific plan for the airport area.
Specific plan. Thank you, Director Maria. Okay, item number six, requests for excused absences. Sure. Okay, adjourn.